Hi there. So I just got done with my morning run and I wanted to show you one of my favorite flows for stretching after I run. It won't take too long today, but we'll get the key points that you work while you're running and that are helpful to stretch out right afterwards. Or if you don't have time that day, doing it anytime during the day is really helpful for elongating those joints and muscles after all that contraction of running. So you're gonna start out, if you have a yoga mat, use that, do it on the carpet or floor, really whatever you want. But let's start out with breath. Of course, after you run, you always wanna walk for a while, cool down, get your heart rate back down and kind of return to homeostasis. I always like to practice some breathing too for just recovery, bringing oxygen into the body and releasing your breath. So let's go ahead and start with 360-degree breath. I talk about this in almost every video, but you can place your hands on your rib cage if you haven't done this before. And as you inhale through your nostrils, if you're able, otherwise use your mouth, you want to expand the rib cage out and try to feel your breath coming into the back and really filling that whole area from your sternum down here with air. And then as you exhale, you let the ribs contract. So let's do that together. Practice a few times so you can feel that expansion and contraction and really empty all the breath out of your abdomen until it kind of tightens with that exhale. I like to think of it as kind of a stretch that you're doing from within. So after that, let's come into downward dog, placing your hands firmly on the mat, pressing your palms into the mat so that your shoulders are really stabilized, and then pressing your hips up into downward dog. You can paddle out the feet, giving a good stretch in the calves. And then bring your weight onto the right foot and take the big toe and the toe next to it to kind of sandwich your Achilles tendon and really press back as much as is comfortable for you to get a stretch onto that right foot to give the Achilles a nice stretch. That's one of the most sensitive parts for us runners or walkers or really anyone, a tendon that we need to care for. As you're in this position, do a few of those 360-degree breaths, noticing how it feels in a different position than standing. Make sure to keep pressing your palms into the mat too, to keep the shoulders stable so you're not just slumping down into that downward dog. Let's take one more breath together, and then you're gonna keep your left knee lifted and step through in between your hands into a lunge. Now for this one, I like to use blocks. If you have them, I probably should have said to get those at the beginning. You can place those to hold your lunge. If not, you do hands on the floor with fingers kind of tented, or you could even balance, and I'll show you that in a minute. But let's start out like this, getting comfortable in the lunge, continuing whether your hands are on the floor or on the blocks to really press into them, keep the shoulders stable. Let your back toe press into the mat and your front foot firmly press into the mat so that you're not just slumped. Kind of a slumped lunge would be like this. You want it to be firm. And then you'll bring your back foot forward a little and we'll come into more of a tripod stand so that you get a good stretch on the top of the foot. And then you can flow between those two. going into the lunge and into the tripod. If you like to coordinate your breathing, I would go inhale in the lunge, exhale at the tripod, but you could do it the other way too. It doesn't make much of a difference. If you're not using the blocks, you'll be more like this. Continuing to press the full foot onto the mat. And if you wanted to try the balancing one, you could do it like this. And you get some of the same good work. This gets you a little bit better of a hamstring stretch though. Let's do a couple more together. And then you're gonna place your back knee down on the mat so that you're in more of a 90-90 with the legs. If your knees are sensitive, feel free to put a pillow underneath that bottom knee or a folded blanket to give it some extra padding. You could also just fold up your yoga mat to double it like that, and that'll give you padding too. So press your front foot firmly into the mat and your knee firmly into the mat. So you're stable, kind of squeezing your legs together, or the inner thighs together. And then you're gonna place your hands behind your head. And the goal here is to give a good stretch in your hip flexor. So for some, it may be enough in this 90-90, and then to do the full 360-degree breath. Really feeling your rib cage expand and lift up as you do that. You should be able to feel a lift in your hip flexor too. If you need to extend more this way to feel it, do that. But make sure you're staying stable, trying to still kind of isometrically squeeze those inner thighs together so that you don't become wobbly in your joints. So let's take 3 good breaths together here. Letting your spine grow long, chin is slightly tucked. And then you can move your blocks if you were using them and go ahead and step back into downward dog. Paddle the feet out. Notice how the leg that you worked might feel different than the other leg. My right leg is a little bit looser already. So then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Kind of sandwich your big toe and the toe next to it around your Achilles tendon on your left side. Take a few of those full breaths and remember to keep your palms firmly pushing into the mat for strong and stable shoulders. Let's take one more breath together. And then bring the knee towards the chest to step in to a lunge position. You can use your blocks or not. Maybe try both ways to see what feels good for you. Press your right foot firmly into the mat to activate your full leg. And then press your back toe of your left leg into the mat, or all your toes, the tripod of your foot. And then bringing it forward to stretch the top of the foot into a tripod stand. Full breath here. And then go ahead and flow between the two. You can kind of play with the distance of your feet. Everybody's different. So you can feel what is right for your body. Full 360 inhale and exhale. Remembering to press both feet into the mat. Try to relax your face, relax your shoulders even as you keep them stable. Let your body calm down. Inhale and exhale. And then on the next exhale, bring your knee down into that 90-90 stance. Again, pad your knee if you need to. And go ahead and press your front foot and your back knee into the mat. Squeeze the inner thighs together to get a nice strong lunge position and a bit of a pull on that hip flexor. You can play with the space if you need to. It might be different on one side than the other. And then place your hands behind your head, kind of tucking your chin, growing the spine long and using your full 360-degree breath to get a nice stretch in that flexor. Exhaling all the air out. Relaxing your cheeks. Being careful not to scrunch your shoulders up to your ears. And then you can move your blocks out of the way, coming up, both feet together, and rising all the way up. And then bring the legs wide, turning on your mat. Both legs are pointing to the side. And then we'll tilt the pelvis. So you want to bend not from your waist, but let your pelvis tilt, bringing you into a wide-legged forward fold. This is another place that it can be really helpful to use blocks to keep your spine straight and long as you really pull the hips back and get a nice full back of the leg stretch. You could also come down to the ground, but I just encourage you to keep the spine as straight as possible. Slant with your chin slightly tucked. I'm not doing that right now because I'm trying to see you. But you want to chuck the chin, grow the spine long, and let that stretch come from the hip flexors. It can also help to press your full foot into the mat. So toes, the tripod of the foot. And take a few deep breaths here with a full exhale. And then you can slowly bring yourself back up to stand. Turn around on your mat and we'll bring ourselves down to sit. You can lean back with feet flat on the ground. And just go ahead and bring your ankle over your thigh or your knee to give some more good stretching in those hip flexors. If you are not able to bring your ankle over your knee, bring the foot further out and do it in the position that works in your body. Again, I would try not to slump into my shoulders, but press your hands into the mat so that you stay stable and strong. And use your breath again to get a full recovery. I like to use this time too to kind of twirl my ankles. They always need a lot of stretching after I run. And if you're one that likes separating the toes, this can be a great time to do that too, where you give your toes a handshake, placing each finger in between a toe. Can't even get my fingers in there right now. My toes are so stiff from being cold. Okay. And then you do the ankle stretch. Some people call this twisting out the towel. But might as well multitask with the hip flexor, the ankle, and the toes at the same time. Okay, and then I'm going to go to the other side, doing the same thing. So work out the place that works for you to get your leg up there. Give yourself a nice hip flexor stretch. And then you can twirl your ankles. You could give them a little massage if that helps. And go ahead and separate the toes as well. So you can, of course, take longer. I don't recommend doing these stretches for much shorter than we did. But, you know, if you're pressed for time, a little is better than nothing. So happy running and stretching, and let me know how this felt. Have a good day.